the ultimate Barner.
War Eagle, baby!
The lifelong Bammer.
Roll Tide, Bama Nation.
This is the Tigers and Tide Podcast. All the latest news from Auburn, Alabama, and the SEC. Here are your hosts, Brett Mason and Jamie Thomas.
All right, welcome in. 2 weeks in the books now for college football 2014 season, and we got a little bit to talk about today. My co-host, as always, Jamie Thomas. How are you, sir?
Good, buddy. Roll Tide. How are you?
War Eagle, man. I'm doing good. It was, I tell you, I just didn't enjoy watching football too much Saturday because nobody played anybody, and it was kind of boring. But, you know, a college football Saturday is certainly better than a Saturday in March. I just tell you that.
Absolutely. It was rather disappointing. There were a couple of good games. Most of them were out of conference, and even though I'm not real big on out of conference teams, like you said, we're just watching football is better than doing anything else in my book.
Let's talk about a couple of things that jumped out from the Alabama game and the Auburn game, and then we're going to talk some stats, and then we'll look ahead to this weekend for Alabama, and then finally we'll talk a little bit, preview maybe just a little bit Florida. Let's talk about Blake Sims and Coker. Let's talk about that, I guess, for starters.
Well, I think Blake Sims has separated himself as the number one quarterback for Alabama. Saban is still not ready to commit to a starter. I think a lot of that has to do with him not wanting Blake Sims to get confident. But I think if you watch the team, they're playing a little bit harder. They've got a little bit more trust in Blake. He made some throws this past Saturday that he wasn't able to make in the West Virginia game. He looked more confident. His technique looked a lot better. He really, impressed me. I thought coming into the year Jacob Coker would be the better quarterback. From what I understand, he's still having some problems calling the plays, having problems inside the huddle, and that's why Blake is separating himself. In fact, just the other day I read an article. I can't remember if I read an article, if I heard a comment from Kiffin, but Coker was the man going up into the last scrimmage, and that's when Blake separated himself just because of his leadership on the field. The Bama fan base is kind of torn down the middle. A lot of folks want Coker, a lot of folks want Sims. I think Coker, will get better as this year progresses, and he will definitely be the starter next year. I think right now this is Blake Sims' ball club.
I'll tell you what's weird from not being a rabid Alabama fan on the outside looking in. It's confusing to me why there's this thing with Alabama fans, because for me watching them, if I was an Alabama fan, it seems like I'd be saying, let's play Sims because he looks by far the best on the field. He's in control, he's confident, he obviously knows the offense well, and his players respond to him, and you just don't see that with Coker. It looks completely different when Coker's on the field.
That's right. Kiffin is known for this, his West Coast offense, and that's really what we're seeing a lot of as a Bama fan. It was kind of hard to buy into that, because we're used to the ground and pound, giving it to TJ, giving it to Derrick Henry, letting them get 4 or 5 yards, and then the play action pass to the tight end, or the occasional deep ball. But what we're seeing is a lot of slants, we're seeing a lot of screens, we're seeing Amari Cooper get the ball 13 to 15 times a game right now. Blake Sims was 12 for 14 for 228 yards. He averaged 16 yards per play, 3 for 2 touchdowns, and then, he's good with his feet. So I think he fits the Kiffin offense a little bit better. And like you said, everybody's just responding to him a whole lot better than what they are Coker.
Well, on the flip side of the quarterback issue, let's talk about Nick Marshall, who I don't understand why everybody, including everybody from Malzahn on down, doesn't just completely give up on this idea of him ever being a passer, because it just ain't going to happen.
Well, I think to win in the league, you have to be able to throw the ball. And when he's throwing the ball, he's I think he was 10 for 20, 10 for 19, 100 yards, a touchdown. Marshall has shown, after he kind of got settled in last year and the first part of this year, when he's in the game, he's not going to make throwing mistakes. He's going to make passes. He's a smart quarterback when it comes to managing the game. He's not going to throw the ball into defenders' hands. He's not going to overthrow his receivers. He's going to make the throws that he knows are high percentage stuff. Will he ever be a pocket passer that's going to throw for 300 or 400 yards a game? No. But you know what? He's averaging, he can get 100, 150 in the air and then get his 100 on the ground. I think that's just as big a threat as a guy that can sit back and throw for 300 yards.
Well, if you look at his successes passing, they're so obvious when he's successful. It's when there's a blown coverage or
Right.
he can get cover to bite on his run. It's completely leaving a guy with a 20-yard radius around him.
Yeah.
That's when he's successful. He's not going to throw into tight coverage. He's not going to throw into man-to-man coverage. He's not ever going to be that guy ever. So,
did you see the Seattle Seahawks game on Thursday night last week when Russell Wilson, remember the play in the Iron Bowl when Nick Marshall ran left, the defenders did,
Yeah.
and then he just tossed it to Sammy Coates and scored.
Yeah.
Seattle ran that exact same play and then gave Nick Marshall credit for that play after the game. So, obviously he does some good things that coaches like Pete Carroll are paying attention to what they're doing.
Well, it's a brilliant play if you can pull it off. And when you have a guy like Marshall who's suspect at passing at best, you need plays like that. You need people to be completely wide open because I don't want him throwing into tight coverage ever. Please, no. On the other hand, we do have a passing quarterback, but our offense isn't really designed for it. He can get in there. They say he can run, even though they haven't run him yet. We saw him run a little bit last year. But we have a passing quarterback, but I'm fine. Let's just run what worked last year. It got us to the big game, and until something needs to change, I just wish everybody would just drop this about let's make him a pocket passer. He's never going to be that in the story.
I agree. With guys like Artis Payne and Corey Grant, Rock Thomas in the backfield, you do not have to have an All-American passer taking the snaps.
So you mentioned some of the stats earlier, and you talked about this Kiffin offense being a West Coast type offense. That's funny because that's one of the things I wanted to bring up today. If you compare first two games this year, Alabama statistics and Auburn statistics, this is quite interesting. Auburn has rushed for 660 yards and passed for 428, which is about 60-40. So they're a 60-40 rush pass team. And on the flip side, Alabama so far this year has passed for 680 and rushed for 470. So they're a 60-40 pass team so far this year, which is kind of interesting for Alabama especially.
Yeah, it is. We've seen a change in that that philosophy. We've always been balanced, or we have been balanced over the last few years, but I think we're going to see that offense open up a little bit more. Just looking at Amari Cooper, last year he got the ball receiving. He had 45 catches. 45 catches, 736 yards, average 60 yards carry. This year he's already caught the ball 25 times in 2 games. That is impressive. He's averaging 12.8 carry. Like I said, you're seeing a lot of inside slants. You're seeing a lot of little screens, wide receiver screens, wide receiver outs. There's a little short inside 10 yards. But what's really impressive is what he's doing after he catches the ball, the yak, yards after catch. He's Amari Cooper right now set up to break every Alabama record as far as receiving that we've ever seen.
Well, this is kind of interesting. This is people who have caught the ball so far from Alabama this year with more than 10 yards a carry on average, which is kind of mind blowing. But you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You have six receivers have touched the ball so far this year, and they all have more than 10 yards a touch on average, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, it really is.
Of course, Amari Cooper's at the top, 25, averaging 12.8. He's just a beast. I believe he was the top producing receiver last week in all of college football, which is not too shabby, especially when you have a lot of those high-flying passing teams out west that like to toss it up. So dude's going to have a breakout year, and you don't hear receivers talked about too much for the Heisman, but I saw 2 different people this weekend mention him for Heisman.
I don't see how he can't be considered. I think he's going to have well over 1,000 yards this year. I think he's going to have well over 100 catches. Folks are going to start double teaming him. They're going to start stacking, a safety and a quarterback over there, try to contain him. But I don't know if he can be stopped. I think they might slow him down a little bit, but it's going to be tough to completely halt that production that he's putting out right now.
All right, let's move ahead real quick. Finally, to look ahead what's coming up. Auburn's off this week. We don't have a lot to say about Auburn. We'll be playing a Thursday night game the following week. And I don't really want to talk too much about your game this weekend because unless you have something you'd like to say, I'd like to take a quick look ahead to Florida maybe, which I think is maybe a little more interesting. Did you see Florida play? Did you watch the game?
I did. I was, the 65-0, I think, was a tad misleading. I think Driscoll played a pretty decent game, but I think you and I were texting back and forth during the game. And Eastern Michigan stopped them on 3rd and short 3 times in a row.
Yeah, their very first series out, they had to go for it on 4th down twice. They got better as the game went on, but you were playing Eastern Michigan. Come on.
Yeah. Their first game, I think, Florida's going to be challenged against Kentucky this week. Kentucky's playing pretty good football right now. I know they really haven't played anybody, but they've been playing really well. I think that's going to be a challenge for Florida. If you look at Kentucky right now, they beat Ohio 20-3. They beat UT Martin 59-14. Their offense is kind of explosive. It's going to be interesting to see if Florida can keep up on the defensive side of the football, and then whether or not Driscoll can score on that Kentucky defense. Haven't seen enough of Florida to really know exactly how good they are, but like I said, that Kentucky game is going to be we'll kind of give us an idea on what the final game's going to look like.
Yeah, I didn't see enough in that game either to make too many decisions on them. One, because of the quality of opponent they were playing. I will say this. I think they got some possibly some SEC level defense back. We'll just have to see how that pans out. On the offensive side, it's hard for me to tell because they weren't really challenged in a lot of ways. The times that they were challenged, they were stopped, like we mentioned early in the game. So you'll have to see what, when they're up against an SEC level defense, what that offense could do. But I think their defense is going to possibly look pretty good this year. So that'll be interesting. That being said, I think Alabama's going to win that game rather easily. Somebody might want to kick me in the face for saying that, but I don't think it's going to be that tough. I think Alabama should handle them okay from what I've seen so far.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's going to depend on the play from Jeff Driscoll. I think last year he kind of got hurt a little bit. I think he only played in 3 or 4 games. Threw more interceptions than he did touchdowns in 2012. He threw 5 interceptions, only threw 12 touchdowns. He's prone for mistakes. He takes a lot of sacks. Not that great in the pocket. If Alabama defense can rattle him, I think we can shut that offense down a little bit.
Well, this weekend you're at home again against Southern Miss. I'm going to make my score prediction really quickly. I know you don't do score predictions, but I think Alabama's probably going to try to go for a shutout again to make a statement. I think they're very capable of pitching a shutout, but I'm still going to say Southern Miss gets a field goal, so I'm going to say it's going to be 42-3.
42-3, I can live with that. This is I told you at the beginning of the season I like this game. Just because it renews an out-of-conference rivalry for Alabama. Southern Miss has always been a fun team to play. They've showed up. They've upset Alabama before. I don't think that's going to happen this year, but it's good to see them back on the schedule. I'm actually looking forward to watching this one.
Yeah, I think it'll be better than the FAU game. I'll say that. I think Southern Miss has a chance of actually putting points on the board, which would be interesting. I think it'll happen late in the game, obviously, when you're playing 3 deeps, but I think they'll still make it happen possibly. So it should be a good game, and I look forward to it. And we may or may not do another podcast before the weekend. We'll just have to see if some breaking news or stuff like that happens.
Okay, sounds good to me.
All right, I enjoyed it, War Eagle.
All right, roll tide, bud.
Tigers and Tide is a weekly podcast covering football in the state of Alabama and the SEC. We don't claim to be football gurus or talking heads. We're fans just like you. If you like the show, please take a moment to share the link to this episode on your Facebook page. And don't forget to like our page at facebook.com/Tigers and Tide. That's facebook.com/Tigers and Tide. Have a great weekend and War Eagle. And roll Tide.